Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Football Heritage TV. I say this a lot, but it's the day after the defeat before. And I am joined by Spurs season ticket holder. I shouldn't announce you like that because we're friends. My friend and season ticket holder, Chris B. Chris, how are you, Tottenham aside?
Tottenham side very well. It's a
Good.
Monday, the sun is shining, and all is
Yes.
good in the world.
Good, good. All is good in the world. It's all good in my world as well. The sun is shining, even though I've got the. That's why I don't have that open. But Chris, we're here to talk about something that's not all good in the world, which is Tottenham Hotspur. Now, yes, people message me and go, "Oh, there's wars happening and there's this happening," but we're talking football. This is a football YouTube channel. Chris, as always, you would expect from me later on in the show, I've got lots of little stats and facts that will show just how bad I think we've actually done as a football club over the last 18 months. But I know that you wanted to have a little say first. You go to the games, come rain or shine, unless you're in hospital or on holiday, the two H's. Talk to me from a season ticket holder's point of view, who was at the game. What was yesterday like? What were the boos like? Talk to me about the whole atmosphere.
So, as I said to you earlier, I've been going to Tottenham for 34 years now, and some things never change. And it's our losing mentality. It's our DNA where we never raise to the opposition. There's players there who think they've made it when they haven't. You've also got players who think that when they put on the Tottenham shirt that they go beat the opposition without even applying themselves. And we get these teams that come to the stadium with more energy, more desire, and more fight. And again, Ange has been outschooled by a young manager who many speak a lot of, but in the four pyramid of British football, the professional leagues, that was the only club in the land not to have won a single game of football this season in 11 games. So yesterday, the Tottenham team, you've got Porro, good going forward, can't defend for toffees, about as effective as a chocolate tea cosy. Then you've got Romero, whose head's been turned. He doesn't want to be there. He strolls around the pitch haphazardly, hands on waist. I don't know if Real Madrid are going to come up with 50, 60 million. If they do, I'm quite happy to pick him up from Enfield and drive him to the Bernabeu myself,
Yeah,
because he's not adding anything or contributing to this team.
No.
Then dare I say that we have reinvented Eric Dyer, but we've reinvented him in the form of Radu Dragusin. And you've got a bloke who cannot play football from the back. It's almost like the Federico Fazio or the days of some of our other astounding centre backs. He will never fit the Ange philosophy, whatever that may be, because he can't pass the ball. And he's playing him on the left side. And for a brief moment yesterday, I was thinking to myself, I'd rather see Ben Davies deployed at left centre back, because at least he is composed on the ball and can play a ball out. This guy yesterday, every time he got the ball, you were jittery and nervous. And then the other side, you've got a doggy who has brain farts galore. He can't defend. But the thing with a doggy and Porro, nobody's pushing him. Nobody's pressing him. You've got Spence on the bench, yet he's not getting game time. And then sitting behind them
at the moment, Chris. He can't buy a minute.
Sitting behind them, you've got a goalkeeper who's like a vampire. He's afraid of crosses. He just cannot control his penalty area. He does this tip-tappy nonsense. We try and play out from the back. We play suicidal balls. The opposition presses, and then we lose the ball in key areas. And then in front of there, people ranting and raving about how much of a Rolls-Royce player Bentancur is. Is he really? Do Juventus let go of good players? What other top clubs in the top six does he walk into? None. Papa Matassar offers the energy that we need. I'm not going to knock him, as I've been critical of him in recent games, and he's still a young lad. But then Kulusevski carries the ball well, but is he all that? No. But then in front, my God, Brennan Johnson, if he's not tapping one in at the far post, he offers absolutely nothing. He looked like a rabbit in headlight. At one point yesterday, towards the end of the first half, I think around the 42, 43 minute mark, somebody played a cross into the box. He turned his back on the ball and he missed it completely. Had he looked at it, the opportunity was there for a far post header. And then Son completely gone. The crowd, for the first time ever, started turning on him in the South Stand yesterday. There were boos and abusive language aimed in his direction. He's not a captain. He's a guy who served the club well and has been an ambassador for the brand, but that's all he is now, an ambassador. He's more in tune with bringing tourists through the turnstiles and spending their hard-earned money in the shop. Any other serious club, he doesn't start week in, week out, and then that leaves you with Solanke, who I felt sorry for yesterday. Sitting in the South Stand, I could see his movement through the game. He was almost replicating what Harry Kane used to do, dropping deep into central midfield, going into the channels, because none of the wide players were finding him with balls. So he's never going to succeed. So that was my observation of the players. But then there's more than the players. The players are coached by somebody called a manager or first team coach, and it's his job Monday to Friday to prepare that team. And that's not only tactically and strategically, but it's to deploy a winning mindset. It's to deploy a winning mentality. He's not doing it. The guy is not fit for purpose. You have all these people echoing the thoughts on social media of what's the point of sacking another manager going again. So answer me this question. Are you prepared to stick with that manager if he takes us into a relegation battle or, God forbid, takes us into the Championship? You'll be left with egg on your face in that case. So, Savva, it's the same old Tottenham. The things don't go away, and it's not a Spurs rebuild. We haven't even touched the side with a rebuild. All we're doing is deploying the same old faces under a manager who's not fit for purpose. And it makes me absolutely howl that in the summer, people are going absolutely crazy saying, oh, drag us in. He's rejected Bayern Munich to come to Tottenham. There's a reason he's rejected Bayern Munich to come to Tottenham, because alongside Diego Pukami and Kim, the South Korean lad, and God forbid, at the time, De Ligt and even Eric Dyer, he gets nowhere near the Bayern Munich first team, which is evident in his recent performances.
Yeah, well, look, a scathing assessment, and you know what? Scathing but honest, and I like that. Thanks, Chris. You know me. I'm not one of these YouTubers who'll skirt around the edges and say nice things to try and win popularity contests. The worrying thing for me, Chris, in all of this is what you've just described there isn't an anomaly. Like this isn't that we're saying we're a really good team and oh my God, wasn't yesterday a one-off? This is how I feel every other week when I'm watching Tottenham Hotspur. And unfortunately, we seem to be a fan base now that are so starved of success. We are so starved of watching very good footballers that we're starting to overrate very average footballers. We give them superlatives. Last week, I'm being told Bentancur is class and walks into any Premier League team. I'm watching this guy. One week I go, yeah, you're a good player. Next week, I'm like, is Bentancur playing? And not just Bentancur. I can apply that to Kulusevski. I can apply that to Son. I can apply that to Solanke. I can apply that to Romero, to Van der Ven. This is what we've bought. We've bought a team of, I think we've got a very nice team. I think they're all nice people, right? I don't think any of them in there you really look at. I mean, Richie's got a weird personality, but I don't really think you look at them and think they're nasty or opposition fans hate this player, that player. You know the way he's sort of like a Craig Bellamy. Everyone would hate Craig Bellamy, but you'd love him in your 11 because of what he did. If I bring it back to the point of this show, as I've said, a Spurs rebuild, question mark. I've said, give me a break. And Chris, I want to dispel this myth, and we'll get to some stats later, but I really want to dispel this myth that I see from podcasters, YouTubers, pundits, and Levy. The rebuild, right? I don't care, Chris, if we use the word build, rebuild, project, process, youth project. It's going to bear fruit, yada, yada. You can chuck in any phrases that you've heard, right? The problem is, Chris, it's not true. This is the same 11 as last season with Dominic Solanke instead of either what would be Solomon, Richarlison, or, well, either Solomon or Richarlison or Hill. Those are the three that have gone, right? You've got Timo Werner back. Sonny's still there, but this time he's playing more on the left, whereas last season he played a lot of time through the middle. We bought Solanke in, and I'm hearing this is going to revolutionise Spurs. This is what we do. If anything, it looks like Solanke, and not his fault, doesn't fit the actual system that we play. When we talk about he's going to revolutionise it in all these videos as he does this, the system that Andrew's deployed doesn't really doesn't suit him. And this is what I said to you, and you know, you're in my one Spurs WhatsApp group that I've got. And I said this morning to all of you, didn't I? For me, if Ange, and I'm going to pass the baton to you after this, if we turn around and if fans were truly genuine that they wanted a youth project, and this was a youth project and this was a rebuild, as fans, me and you, Chris, whether we like it or not, have to turn around and go, that's what it is. And what I mean by that is, if we turn around and say in the summer, right, Ben Davies, you're old now. Thanks for your service. You're moving you on. Sonny, you're old now. Thanks for your service. Richie, we don't need you. Timo Werner, you're not coming back because of your age. Bentancur, Basuma, Madison, okay, we don't need all three of you because this is a youth project. If that was the case, Chris, and then you're bringing in Bergvall, you're bringing in Gray, you're bringing in Yang, Odegaard, Ashley Phillips is still at the club, Dorrington's getting minutes, Lancashire, Moore, Donnelly. If we did that, now I could be pissed off as a fan and say, what are we doing? Do we not want to win? But at least then the youth project, the process, the build would make sense. What we've actually done is gone, let's have the exact same 11 from last year. We'll add Solanke in. Every substitution will be the squad that was here last year. The Basumas are coming on. The Madisons are coming on. The Werners are coming on. And then we pretend, but it's a young team. I'm so fed up, Chris, with the lies. I'm going to stop ranting now. I needed to get off my chest. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so 24 hours before I had the misfortune of travelling to Tottenham to watch that pile of steaming poo yesterday, I sat down and watched Brighton against Man City. And you looked at the Brighton side. When they started, they had Hinshelwood alongside Ayari in the centre of the park. And then they took them off and they brought on Baliba, the young African player, who I thought was absolutely incredible. And then they brought on Matt O'Reilly, who we'd spoken to at length, you and I, about signing him in the summer. And you had game-changing midfielders, but you also had, you talk about this young perspective, you had a Dinger on one side, Mitoma on the other. You had those two very young players in midfield, and then they were replaced by two very young players. And then up top, you had Ruta, who was at Leeds last season. So you had a combination of young players supported by seasoned pros, Danny Welbeck, Veltman, and others. And you could see the dividends that paid. We got rid of a load of old duffers in the summer. We let go of Ndombele, we let go of Lo Celso, we let go of Ryan Sessegnon, we let go of Dia. So we did clear the decks of some of these players. Skip, Royal, Højbjerg, Parrott. So we did make a case for stripping back some of the deadwood and some of those that have been coasting for too long. But this manager is the manager who signed off on the acquisition of Vicario, who's not good enough. He's a good shot stopper, but he's weak. He's got a weak mentality. And then moving forward, he's also the bloke who said to us, I have the final say on every transfer. Who in their right mind accepts Timo Werner? Not on one occasion, but two. And then
it's funny. You've got to laugh at it, Chris.
The other side, you've got Brennan Johnson, and he had that little scoring run that set the minds running crazy of all the young, stupid children who all of a sudden said this was a generational footballer. He's absolutely brilliant. In recent weeks, we've lost to the only club in the four tiers of British football without a win, Ipswich. And then we gave Crystal Palace their first victory. Look what happened to them at the weekend. They lost again. They're back down in the relegation battle.
But we have home, by the way. They lost at home where we went and couldn't win.
And you know what always drives me wild and drives me crazy? This ridiculous huggle we have as a team before kickoff, where all 11 players interlock arms. And I'm thinking, what are they talking about in there? Last night's episode of Jack Reacher or something? Because it can't be tactics based. because
I'd rather watch Jack Reacher than Spurs at the moment, if I'm
yeah.
honest.
Well, at least you know Jack Reacher wins more fights than he loses, and he's a well put together dude, and he's got a little bit of shithousery around him, and he's got a little bit of endeavour. So
and he always gets the girl. He always gets the girl, doesn't he? Old Jack Reacher. Yeah, gotta love him.
But you look at it, it's not a rebuild. It's just using the same resources, but trying something different with them. But when we move on to Ange, we've got a bloke who's 60. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yet you look at the Brighton manager, what's he, 36, 37 years of age?
31.
Right, okay. So a relative unknown.
31.
A relative unknown who's mixing it with Pep Guardiola. And Brighton were not lucky on Saturday. They deserve that victory. So
before we move on to Ange, can I quickly interject with what you've said there? And by the way, I say interject, I'm going to agree. I've just looked, right? And when I look at, we talk about youth project at Spurs, right? As you said, Brighton's midfield four, right, were Adingra, Hinchelwood, Ayari, and Matoma. Adingra is 22. Hinchelwood is 19. Ayari is 21, right? Rutter up front is 22. Then the players they bought on, Belieber is 20, right?
Good player.
Gruder is 20. They brought on. So look how many 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. Brighton had 7 of them throughout the game at some points. The youngest person Tottenham have playing for us when we call it a youth project, if I'm not wrong, please correct me, is Adogi at 22, right?
Well, you look at the opposition for yesterday. I got to the ground, saw that Ipswich were going 5 at the back. They had Leif Davis, who had been most of his career at Leeds, played 12 games in the Championship for Bournemouth, and he gets scooped up by Ipswich. Alongside him, you got Darragh O'Shea, who had spent all his career at West Brom before spending a season in the Premiership with Burnley. He was relegated in his only season in the Premiership. Then you had a guy, Cameron Burgess. He has had the accolades of playing for Cheltenham, Oldham, Bury, Scunthorpe, Accrington, Stanley before arriving at Ipswich. So not knocking the lad. He's obviously a seasoned pro. He's worked hard to get to the Premiership. Then you had Axel Tuanzebe, who I can recall was on Man United's books once upon a time. And then you had Ben Johnson, 24 years of age, spent most of his career at West Ham. So you had a back five where there were no star signings, there were no international footballers, there were no 50, 60 million pound players, but you had a load of guys who were prepared to put their head in the battle. They were prepared to fight, and they made it. Tottenham could have been playing until next year, and they would never have got the equaliser. And then in front of them, they had a bloke called Sam Morsy, who qualifies for international football with Egypt. And I think if you look at his career history, he played hundreds of games for Wigan in League One and the Championship. And
Wigan,
we've got these
Chesterfield,
players,
Port Vale.
You've got these players mixing it with our supposed generational superstars. And if it was a boxing match, the referee would have stopped it because we didn't put a glove on them. And it's all about mentality. It's all about focus. And we kid ourselves. We're not an elite club. We're an elite club in the Deloitte money terms. And we're arguably, supposedly, the 8th richest club on the planet. But when it comes to application of sport in Paris, we're a joke. We're an absolute joke.
It is. I mean, look, it's interesting you say there. I mean, again, Ipswich were missing, like, their main centre back is Jacob Greaves. He was missing from the team. You know, Ogbean, who they bought from Luton in the summer, you know, he was missing as well. Calvin Phillips, who they signed on loan, he was missing as well. And like, you're looking at this Ipswich team, and listen, I'm going to give, I've done this on all the streams I've done. I'm going to give them credit. I thought they were excellent on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And what I don't want to do is go, oh my God, every other team's rubbish, and be arrogant that we should win. But this is Ipswich Town at home. And like you said,
this arrogance, Savva, this arrogance was echoed in the stadium after the game. There were fans around me saying, oh, you'd think they'd won the effing Champions League. How pathetic. What a small mentality. No, they've come to the Tottenham Stadium and beaten us. Your mentality is that you think just because we're Tottenham, these teams are going to turn up, we're going to turn them over. Yet you are questioning their desire and appetite to celebrate their victory with their fans. How often do we see that same energy and passion from our players? We don't. Not
We
never.
just don't see it. Look how bad
No.
we are away, and their manager masterminds a result like
Oh,
that. And again,
yeah,
as you said, not as individuals, but as a collective,
as a team.
to, to a man, they were
And
brilliant.
and I texted you in the game yesterday about Delap. I texted you early
He
in the
was
game.
brilliant.
I said, this bloke's beating up our centre backs. You've got
Yeah,
an alleged
yeah.
World Cup winner who all of our fans lyrical about. Guys, face it, Romero's not that good. And
No,
in fact, he's very average. And this bloke who was once in the City Academy, I think he spent last season at Hull, got about 8 games in the Championship last season. He was absolutely bashing our centre backs around as if it was a sparring session in the local gym on a Saturday afternoon.
well, here we go. So for Man City, he's had 2 sub appearances, right? Then he's had loans on at Stoke, Preston, and Hull. Last year, he bullied us. Last night he bullied us, and
Yeah,
every ball that went in the air, I thought Romero's going to miss this, and he did. Dragushin again. Look, I want to move on to the manager in a minute and stuff, but for me, I just wish that the Spurs fan base would actually be honest for once and stop blowing smoke. We blow smoke up everybody. Bentancur's brilliant, Kulu's brilliant, Romero, Van der Ven, Porro, Adogi, Vicario, Son, Solanke. All of these players, I'm told, are brilliant. If they're brilliant, why are we so inconsistent? Now, I also then hear, Chris, that the manager's brilliant. So if the manager's brilliant, if the players are brilliant, right? If the process is brilliant, I'm asking this question. I'm going to give you some stats now, Chris, and bear with me here, right? I'm going to give you some stats. Now, I'm going to give you what I get a lot when I put these together, Chris. You've probably seen it is people going, "Oh, you've cherry picked." I love that. So what I've done, I've got some short-term stats, and then I've got some stats which are 12 months. So 11th of November last year to the 11th of November this year. And Chris, I would argue that 12 months in football is a bloody long time. I would argue that that's a very good sample size. Right? Here we go. Currently, right now, as it sits, this is as of the 11th of November, Tottenham are 10 points worse off than last season. 10. Right? 10. I've written it down so it can't be false. 10 points. That's shocking. That shows you that, listen, I granted the first 10 games of last year was a bit of an anomaly. And I wouldn't
clubs found us out in the 11th game. Mm-hmm.
But surely get to 5 points off of where we were from the anomaly last year. 4 points, 3. But to be 10 points down is shocking. We are 14th in the away form table. 14th. We spent nearly 400 million with this manager. Everyone raves about our players and how great they are. We're 14th. This is the big one, Chris. I can't get 22 points from our last 18 games. That is just above relegation form, right? So I don't need to tell you this, over the calendar year, that would average you, if I'm not wrong, 46 points. So if you look at double that, add another point or two for the extra game, 44, 46 points, right?
Well, the magical point they always said was 40 points to stay in the Premiership.
Right.
If you get 44, 46, you are hanging on in there by the skin of your teeth.
Right. But again, people say you're cherry picking. I'm not cherry picking. It's there. It's in black and white. Chris, and another one.
I think the best one I hope you come to is 13 times out of the last 15 games
I'm coming to it. I'm coming to it, mate. I'm coming to it. 10 defeats from the last 18. Chris, this is diabolical. This is absolutely diabolical. More than 50% of our games, right, in the last 18 have been defeats. We're meant to be a top club with a top manager and top players. Everyone told me how good these players were, and the manager was. 10 defeats. That shows me, and we're going to talk about this in more detail in a minute, that he can't adapt. Now, I'm sorry, for some reason, this one's not coming, but you're right. 13 of the last 15 home games, we've gone behind. Now, people will go, shows great character that most of the time we come back. We shouldn't be going 1-0 down to West Ham, to Brentford, to Villa, to Ipswich. We shouldn't be going 1-0 down to all of these teams. 13 from 15, Chris, and we're going to, as I said, we're going to talk about this in a minute. Tells you he's not setting the team up right from the kickoff. The team talks aren't good if we are in the mindset where we go 1-0 down. Now, here's some stats. Sorry, let me round off this season's stats. Ready? From 33 points available, we've got 16 points. 16. People keep telling me we're on an upward trajectory. This is crap. I don't care what other teams in the league are doing, by the way. I don't support those other teams, right? But this is level with Brentford. This is below Fulham. This is below Brighton. This is below Forest. This is below Newcastle. With bearing in mind we've got Man City away next. This is crap. Now, Chris, sorry, I'm on a rant, right? The last 12 months, as promised, I'll give a massive sample size. This is Ange's record for 12 months. You could talk about injuries, fatigue, form. 12 months. Spurs in that time have played 39 league games. All right, 39. 17 wins. Are you ready? 17 defeats. 17. 10 of which are in the last 18, which shows you we're getting worse. 5 draws. Right? So, again, you work that out as an average. From 39 games, we've won 17. Again, it works out to about 45, 46% in the last year. Yeah. Right? Probably even less, right? That works out to 56 points in a year. Now, Chris, over the last 5 seasons, do you know where 56 points on average would have you? Depending on the season, because obviously every season is different, 9th or 10th every year. When I look at all those stats, Chris, and we'll move this now into Ange, and thank you for your patience with that, doesn't that tell the story of just how it doesn't matter when people want to talk about possession and domination, touches inside the box, most goals scored, we don't concede from set pieces anymore, yada, yada, yada. Those stats, Chris, show that this is not a team that is improving in any way, shape, or form. We're actually getting worse. I'll hand the baton to you. Thank you.
So 2 things straight off in respect of Ange. I'm always told it's a project where he's 18 months into that project. And then I would look at Maresca, who arrived at Chelsea in the summer. He's commenced a project, but his project is moving much quicker. And Chelsea are in contention, you'd say, for a Champions League spot easily. So we have a guy who's at our club in a project, and he's on a 3-year contract, but he's 18 months into that 3-year contract. So how can we continue to defend him and justify what he's doing when it's nonsense? It's absolutely nonsense. You're on a downward spiral. And I often say, all these people have all this faith and courage and admiration for Ange. What's it earned off? Because this is a bloke who's not befitting of a place in our Hall of Fame when you think of what some of our other managers have done. How does he compare to Harry Redknapp? How does he compare to the initial tenure of Maurizio Pochettino? How does he compare to Terry Venables? How does he go back to Arthur Rowe? How does he go back to Bill Nicholson? He doesn't hold a glove to any of those guys. Yet for some bizarre reason, our fan base are, oh, this guy's great. What? Because we suffered the pain of 2 proven winners under Conte and Mourinho, knowing that they were given limited tools to work with and played negative football. This guy came in and he baffled and confused and sprinkled magic dust for his first 10 games. But from the 11th game onwards, the opposition had worked him out. Now he's been tactically schooled by a number of managers. So my fear is if we continue with this guy, we're in trouble. And we could, and people are now, we're Tottenham. It doesn't mean anything. We haven't been Tottenham for a number of years. When was the last time we won a cup or a championship? A long, long time ago. We persevere with this guy, he's going to take us to a relegation battle. And that's not me being melodramatic. It's honesty. So what a better time now on an international break. We've got 2 weeks before we kick a ball again. If you're going to make a change, now's the time to do it. Because
Yeah,
if you
he won't.
persevere and say, no, they won't, 100% they won't. But if you persevere and say, oh, let's give him December, January, well, you fall further behind and your targets become unachievable. There's no way in a million years that we finish in the top four, and the likelihood of finishing in the top six are becoming a distant dream. But this guy's 60 years of age. That's not discriminative against age. It's still a young number. But he's not evolving. He's not learning new ideas. He's not going back to the drawing board and thinking, actually, they put a 5 at the back on Sunday and 4 in midfield, and I couldn't find a way through them. So do I put Kulusevski back out to the right? Does Brennan Johnson go to the bench? Does that allow me to bring Maddison into the Kulu role so that I've got that offensive player? But then you look at the body language of some of the players on Sunday, and I think there's no relationship between Maddison and the coach. And at times,
I don't think there is
Maddison
between any of them, Chris.
No.
If you actually watch when our players, and you're there, but when what it shows to us and the videos that come out afterwards, when Ipswich players, for example, were going over to the sidelines, McKenna was with them going, right, you do this, it, squeeze it, all of these stuff, right? When you watch Ange, he's arms folded or hands in pockets. The players have come over. He doesn't speak to them. And Maddison's getting all the attention, but I think the body language of a lot of the players is one
Romero,
of, we don't believe in this project.
That last 10 minutes of that game yesterday, Romero decided he was going to play centre forward. And I'm like, what is he doing? He's not even excelling or inserting anything about him or trying his hardest. He was just dillying and dallying. When we were kids and we used to be the goal hanger and all we did was stood in the penalty box waiting for a chance. It was no different from that. And you look at some of the other players and you think, when it's getting tough, you want to look to the touchline to see your saviour, your coach, your manager, fist pumping, showing some passion, showing some energy, and coaching you through the games. Like Ipswich were excellent yesterday at their keeper wasting as much time as he could every time he got the ball. How he was never booked, I do not know. But then they milked the injuries. When we were coming back into the game, people would go down. They'd be running time off the clock, and their coach Kieran McKenna and his backroom staff, they were all there in the technical box. They were busy. I've never seen Ryan Mason. I've never seen Joel Jedinak. I've never seen Nick Montgomery. And then you do a further assessment and go deeper and you think, what the coaching credibility of those guys? What have they achieved? You need football people who know the game. And we just have got ourselves in a real mess, a real muddle. And would you, having allowed a manager to spend 400 million, are you going to trust him to waste another 200 million where there's a strong likelihood that he won't be there in the summer through one way or another?
Let's have a look at this, right? Because for me, again, listen, I think that when everything's going well at Spurs, Ange gets a lot of praise. And when everything's going, I mean, like, oh, we beat Man City. Oh, it's Ange ball and Ange.
A second string Man City team without Haaland, without Grealish, without Doku, without Kevin.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. My point here is, though, is that what's being shown is that those sort of wins are the anomaly. That's not the norm. The facts and stats that I've just shown over a year period is the norm. The first 10 games at the beginning of last season is now showing that was a massive anomaly. And unfortunately, what that did, that was the worst and best thing that ever happened. It was great because at that time, everyone was like, oh my gosh, 8 wins and 2 draws. But it was the worst thing because everyone took this manager who's done relatively nothing in his career from a top level perspective. I'm not knocking what he's done in Japan, Australia, and Scotland, but at this level, it took a manager who's there. That 10 games, Chris, everyone went, he's amazing. And I never jumped on the bandwagon. You know me, I never jumped on this, we're going to win the league, we're going to do that. And since that 10 games, we have looked like factually, we have been the 11th best club in the country over 12 months. 11th. But people are going, oh, it's brilliant. And Ange Bourne, the project and things are improving and the stats. I want to ask about the manager, right? Now, we can listen. I know your feelings on Daniel Levy all too well, same as mine, right? We know the feelings, right? what happens with Spurs, as always, mate. Sorry, just quickly as I speak now, somebody's just messaged me, emailed me to my YouTube email address. And hi, Savva. Let me introduce myself. Here's some stats for your next show. Not great ones, though.
I've actually sent you a WhatsApp that you might have seen or you might not have seen.
I've
And
seen it.
that was the reaction of Ange when he was going down the tunnel yesterday and somebody offered him probably some honest feedback. He's starting to lose the fans because he's biting and he's starting to gob off. We are your customers. We are your paying spectators. If you go for a bad meal and your steak's undercooked and your chips are burnt, you'll give the feedback. You'll tell the chef you haven't got this right. If you go to a dentist repeatedly who forgets to give you any painkillers before abstracting your teeth, you stop going or you complain quite vigorously. This bloke is immune to any feedback. And if you look at his press conference yesterday, he is saying that there's something wrong. He takes the blame, but he's not even making direct eye contact with the people interviewing
I don't
him.
warm to him at all.
His body language and his non-verbal communications are that of a loser, and they're that of a person who doesn't have confidence in his own ability and those around him.
Agreed.
And it's how long can I get away with this myth? And people are finding him out. The stadium, there were boos at halftime, deserved. There were boos at full time, and then there's other people saying, "Why are the blind few continuing to preach the narrative? We've got to give this guy an opportunity and chance. Through what? He hasn't earned it. He's not. If you like, how on earth can we compare ourselves to Man United when Ten Hag, whatever anybody thinks about him, won 2 cups on the bounce, the Coca-Cola Cup, the Carabao Cup, League Cup, and the FA Cup. We would cry out loud for trophies in our
manager
cabinet.
would have a statue built of him by our fans. We would put look, we put Ange on a pedestal and he's doing poorly. Right? They want a manager out who's won 2 trophies in 2 years. And you know what? Whatever we say about Man U, and is it the Man U of 10, 15, 20 years ago? No. But again, still a big enough club to go, this isn't working. Get rid of him, right? We're going to, you know what I mean? The new owners came in, gave him a little bit of time. It hasn't improved. Right, see you later. Right, we're going to pay you off, and we're also going to go and pay 8 million euros to get Ruben Amorim. All this nonsense that who's available for work? Go and pay. Go and get. Listen, Chris, if you're in a job, if I'm in a job, if anyone's in a job and a company from down the road comes and says, we want you to join, I'm happy where I am.
Cash is king.
Cool. What would make your head turn? Well, look, I'm on 5 million a year here. We'll give you 10. Yeah, all right. You know, yeah. I love my job, but I also like 10 million a year more than 5. Right? We don't do that. We don't act. Now, I just want to read you a little bit. I'm not going to read out what this guy has said all in all, because some of it is directed to me and is quite personal. But I'm going to go from the bit where he says, and none of you will have any way of knowing who this is, because I don't even know who this is. He says, anyway, after loads of... I've been looking at some stats. You've probably done this already. Funny you should send this whilst I'm live talking about stats. If not, you may want to check to be sure. I'm pretty sure he's right with these. In the last 38 games, we've got 56 points, as we just pointed out. That's averaging 1.47 points per game. In the last 19 games, we've got 25 points. So for half a season, we're averaging 1.32 points per game. This season, we're averaging 1.5 points per game. Conclusion, he's put, progress, my arse, right? Now, when Levy sacked Poch, he was quoted as follows. Regrettably, domestic results at the end of last season and the beginning of this season have been extremely disappointing. He said, so looking at the year Poch was sacked, from the start of the year in 2019 until he was sacked, he accumulated 40 points in the league over 30 games and got us to a Champions League final. And since the start of 2024 has accumulated 43 points in the league, having managed 30 games. With Man City up next, that's going to average itself out to 43 points from 31 games. Therefore, Poch's last 30 games was averaging 1.33. And Ange, assuming we lose to City, will be 1.33 points per game. Right? So we've sacked arguably one of the best managers we've had for the last 20, 30 years. for exactly the same thing that Ange is doing after giving Ange more money. And that was Poch at his worst. Now, I'm not going to... I wanted Poch to go in the end. I think he had to because of the results. But if Poch is sacked for that, and that's him at his worst, people are praising this as Ange. This is Ange. This is his best, right? I'm just confused as to what are we doing? Where's the trajectory? What are the green shoots people are seeing, Chris, that when they say to me, you're negative, Savva, you don't know Ange? What don't I know? What am I? Please tell me what I'm not seeing to make me see the light.
I'd arguably say that nobody knows Ange, because everything you see from the outside looking in, he's not a warm, cuddly type of guy who's going to put his arm around his players and he's going to take an interest in them, unlike in things we've heard about Mourinho, and we almost certainly know were true regarding Pochettino, about text to players, going around their houses and taking interest in their well-being and welfare. I just don't get a lot of things that Postecoglou does. And I think that Levy will only become interested when revenue's at stake. But can you imagine that £1 billion stadium that we built not having any European football in it whatsoever?
Yes, I can.
And that,
yes,
that yeah. Well, that's a realistic outcome at the end of the season. But what does it say to potential investors when you're trying to sell a global brand and you are hear all these fake positives about Amanda Staveley and everybody? Nothing's ever come from that. Naming rights were still never named the stadium almost 4 years after moving in there. So he will only act when finances are on the line, but we leave it too late and all we're going to be doing is chasing a top 10 finish, and we'll be closer to the relegation zone than the high-flying Birds of Liverpool or Manchester. Or look at Chelsea quietly up to third, and yes, they've spent an inordinate amount of money, but they've got a new manager. They were quick to get rid of Pochettino. What was he there? Less than a season?
Yeah, he was there 1 year. 1 year.
Yeah.
But Chris, look, what I do want to say is this for me is what's keeping Ange in a job. If I'm honest, it is that from third down to 13th is 4 points. That's crazy. 11 teams are separated by 4 points. Now, from that point of view, Chris, let's flip it a little bit. It's not the end of the world, right? If we're going to be brutally honest, it's not the end of the world and we're right in there with everyone else. What frustrates me about this is, again, look at the loss column. Spurs have lost 5 games. We should be embarrassed. All I've heard all season so far and in the summer, right? Chelsea are a mess. Chelsea have only lost to Man City and Liverpool this year. Chelsea are in a mess, right? Nottingham Forest will be in a relegation zone. They've only lost 2 games this year, right? Brighton, they'll crumble away. They always do. They'll crumble away because they keep losing all the best players. They've only lost 2 games this year. And the 2 games they've lost this year were to Chelsea and someone else, right? Brighton and Liverpool. Fulham, they're a mid-table team. Fulham are above us. Only lost 3, right? Villa, last year, the year before, they were one-offs. Villa aren't that good. Villa are above us. Only lost 3 games. Brentford, they've lost Tony. They'll fall away. They're not that good. Brentford are level on points with us. Bournemouth, they've lost their top goal scorer. Bournemouth are 1 point below us. And then the big one, Man United are a mess. Their manager's a mess. They're a shambles. We're brilliant. They're a shambles. They're 1 point behind us. I'm telling you now, Man United will finish above us this season. I'm telling you now.
Every day of the week. I bet you Man United make the top 5.
I bet you Man United are there or thereabouts. Right, I'm going to show you something, Chris. I'm going to show you something. I did this. Now, I did this in the beginning of the season. This before a ball was kicked. That was my prediction. Now, I've not changed my mind on Man City in the league. I think they will. I think they're having a dip. They always have a dip. Might change my Arsenal-Liverpool mind. Man U, Chelsea, Villa, Tottenham, I don't think I can split many hairs at the moment. But Man United now, Ruben Amorim's going to join Man U 4 points off top 4, right? With some feel-good factor coming into the club, giving them a new process, right? For me, I think Man United could easily, I was laughed at. I think they could easily get there, right?
Yeah.
I put Spurs at 7th. I'm going to stick with 7th because when we look at this league table again, right, don't forget our next game is Man City away. Right? Now, Man City, we can talk all day long. Man City are in crisis. Man City are in a crisis for Man City. Right? Man City are in a crisis because no one's seen them lose 4 games in a row before, but everyone's seen them slip up. Every year people doubt Pep. Every year we doubt their squad. And every year Man City come good. I'm going to stick with them to win it, right? And their 4 games they've lost in a row, Chris, not one of them's been at the Etihad. Right?
No.
Not so shit away, yes. Watch Man City beat us. And all those teams around us, some of them are going to pick up points. Tottenham, if I'm not wrong, come the weekend, if we lose that game next in 2 weeks, Tottenham could be low down as 13th. Yeah? 6 points off the top 4. Right? Heading into December, where we have 9 games in 27 days. And this is what I want to bring it back to, Chris. When people tell me the injuries, but squad, we had all summer. We knew we were in Europe. We knew this was different to last year. We knew we were in Europe. We knew we didn't have many defenders available, right? We knew that we'd lost senior pros in terms of Skip. Not saying he's that old, but he'd been around the place. Skip, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, and Ndombele, right? We lost 4 central midfielders, replaced them with 2 18-year-olds. Now, I wanted to talk to you for the last 10 minutes about this because in that time, what you do is get people going now. It's so funny. As people who are Levy out, right? I speak for me. I think I speak for you when they Levy out, right? Okay, right? I know, but I'm just making sure that the chat don't think I'm putting words in your mouth. I've known Chris for many years, right? When people like me and you say things like Levy's a problem, Levy this, most of the fan base for decades have been telling us you guys are negative, what's this? Then we get to the summer and fans are going, these signings are brilliant. Watch Gray and Bergvall are 2 of the best young players in Europe. They're going to come in. They're going to add energy. They're going to add spark. They're better than Højbjerg. They're better than Skip. They're better than Celso. They're better than Ndombele. Right? Oh, my God. Odegaard, who no one was talking about. If you look at his stats and his ball carrying, and he is an Ange player. Right? This player, that player, blah, blah, blah. Brilliant signings. Dragoshin, we got him above Bayern Munich. Ange has been backed. Now, Ange himself, Chris, has said a number of times, I've been backed. I signed off on the players. These are the players I wanted. He has also come out and said, I didn't want to buy more defenders because I didn't want to block the path for the likes of Vuskovic and Phillips. He's also come out and said about the leadership that there are 2 ways of getting leadership. You either buy it, you either acquire it, or you grow it yourself. He came out and said, this is my preferred option. He made this clear. He didn't want defenders. He didn't want more senior players. Now, all the fans that have been so far up his backside, it's unreal, are now clambering about, giving the old, but it's a youth project and he hasn't got any leadership and he hasn't been backed by Levy. Mate, I'm done with it. I just think he's a very average football manager living off of 10 games. I'll pass the baton to you.
Well, when Eric Dyer left the club to sign for Bayern Munich, he came out with his view on Postecoglou, and there were many that questioned him, saying he's only cynical as he's leaving the club. Well, was it cynicism or was it realism that Dyer was an experienced pro? And some of the decisions don't make any sense at all. We've been more focused on reducing the balance sheet than we have managing the squad. And with all these players going out, like you said, seasoned pros in whatever we think of him, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg was a Viking. Every time he stepped on the pitch, he'd make the occasional error, but he'd give you 110%. But we have gone into this season weaker than we finished last season.
Right.
And even like Ashley Phillips, send him on loan. Where is he? Is he at Stoke? Yeah, he was at
He's at
Plymouth
Stoke.
last season. It's
Not
at Stoke now.
not played a lot
Yeah.
either.
These generational talents that we're led to believe, Bergvall and Gray, we don't even play them. And when we played last week was farcical away to Galatasaray, that we had left back playing left centre half, Davis, and we had a defensive central midfielder that we've been playing at right back most of the season, playing at left back. And you think, how are you supposed to blood your youngsters if you're not even playing them in their proper positions?
Sure.
And then you talk about not blocking the pipeline in the future for the Croatian kid, Vucevic. Well, football's about the now. So it's all very well and good buying these players for the future if you've got seasoned pros and instant quality for the now that they can play alongside and they can learn from on the training pitch and can chaperone and usher them through games. We're not doing that. And you look at the current squad, we've not got a winger worth the name winger. They are all terrible. Nobody can put them across into the box. Nobody can beat a man. Nobody's got final delivery. And you think about all the successful teams over the years, what they've been built on, and that's a strong core. So you start off, you think about the great United team, Peter Schmeichel in goal, Pallister and Bruce as centre-backs, Dennis Irwin as left back. Who played right back? Was it Paul Parker or somebody?
Yeah, Paul Parker.
None of them, but they were all good players. And in front of them, you had Roy Keane, who would chop your legs off.
Yeah,
and he had that mentality. Most recently at Man City, Edison in goal. You've had a selection of centre backs, John Stones, who could drop him to midfield and do it. You had
Akanji,
Akanji, and then you look at Liverpool, Becker in goal, and then big Virgil van Dijk alongside him. Then they brought Konate in front of them. We've never had that strong spine.
Never.
We've gone from having the quality of Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld, to the likes of Davinson Sanchez, and now we've got take out Van der Ven. Van der Ven is the only player in the Tottenham squad that any of our opposition would like to get their hands on. You look at the rest of them. You look at the rest of that squad. Nobody's knocking down our door to take Richarlison off our hands, who we paid 65 million for. Nobody.
I don't think many of our players would be wanted. I think for set positions. So, for example, Pedro Porro, I think, is a fantastic footballer. Very big difference here. Would you buy him as a right back? I wouldn't buy him as a right back.
He's a right wing back. He's not a right back. He can't. Yeah.
I'd buy him if I was by a Leverkusen looking for a wing back. If I'm Atalanta looking for a wing back, Atletico Madrid looking for a wing back. But I'm not buying him as a right back.
You look at Bayer Leverkusen, they don't need to replace Frimpong or Alex Grimaldi at the back. They've got two of the highest scoring wing backs in European football. But again, the astounding thing is that we're questioning the ability of our fullbacks, yet Spence sits on the bench getting splinters in his ass week.
Can't get a game.
So and that's another thing for the manager. If it's not working, freshen it up. Like against Galatasaray midweek, who's the centre half, the young lad who got injured pre-season? Dorrington. Why don't you give Alfie Dorrington a run out as opposed to playing a fullback in the middle? It just there.
Put Davis to left back. Give Dorrington.
And then put Dragusin on the right as opposed to playing Dragusin on the wrong side, which is it's like watching Vlad Kirikes play with Dragusin. We heard all this Enter the Dragon nonsense.
The problem is Dragusin's not this type of defender. Dragusin comes from a team where they defended. They sit back, they defend. That's what Dragusin is. We've brought him in. Everyone prays, oh my God, we beat Bayern Munich to him. And unfortunately, he's being asked to do what he does not do. Now, quickly, we've got 2 minutes. There's a couple of things I wanted to bring up. First of all, Chris, all of this stuff that people like me, people like you have been saying, all these people, there's loads of YouTubers like me that have been saying this, loads that don't. what I've noticed now is pundits, pros are all now starting to open their eyes. Now, this morning, like last night, I saw Dean Ashton. Dean Ashton gave a really good 3 minutes on why Spurs aren't difficult to play against. Now, Spurs fans will go, oh, who's Dean Ashton? Dean Ashton wasn't that great a player. He was spot on, right? Alan Pardew last night on TalkSport was saying about Spurs. Like, it was like, meh, right? Harry Redknapp today. Harry Redknapp has come out and said, he said here, Harry Redknapp insists Tottenham are conceding far too easily, need to tighten up the defence, and Ange simply must adapt. Glenn Hoddle keeps saying it on commentary, we've got to adapt. The noise from some of the legends in the club is that they're saying they're not sure about this manager because he's not adapting. Yet all the Ange fans will go, no, he doesn't need to. You guys are negative. You don't get him. Now, the very last thing I want to show you, we've got 60 seconds, Chris. Last thing I want to show you. Have a look at this.
Have you seen the last WhatsApp I shared with you? It's brilliant.
No, I haven't. Yes, yeah, I have seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, the trophy cabinet. Just quickly, have a look at this. Let me blow that up for you. Right, this is for all these people who are telling me that this manager has done brilliantly. Right, can you see that? Is that too small?
Yeah, that's good for me.
Just really quickly, if for anyone that can't see that, right, this is Spurs managers, the number of days in post, the number of matches, and then their points per game. Have a look at some of these, and the stand-up ones I'm going to show you really quickly because I know you need to go, right, is Andre Villas-Boas, who had a similar number of days in charge, 1.91. Fans hated him, right? Pochettino, who done it over nearly 2,000 days, 1.84. Conte, who's had 10 days, 11 days more than Postecoglou, 1.78. He was gone. Mourinho, 516 days, so 20 days more than Ange, 1.77.
Mason, 71 days, 421 days less than his coach, and he's only 1.1 behind him.
But then you look, Harry Redknapp, again, over 1,300 days, 1.73. Look at Ange, right? Ange is nowhere near these managers. Ange is nowhere near these managers. And the reason I show that is there's no upward trajectory. This isn't better. Listen, I don't want Jose. I don't want Conte. But this guy's not doing better than them and has had a lot more money. Chris, I'm going to leave it there. We've got a 2-week international break. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. Please like and subscribe the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate everyone. I'll be back tonight at 6:30 for Debate Savva. Let's see where all those people are. All the people telling me we were going to easily batter Galatasaray when I said that would be a tough place to go. All the people that have told me we're going to finish the day in third. All the people telling me we're on upward trajectory. Debate me tonight, 6:30. Chris, much love, man. Thank you very much for coming on.
Cheers, buddy. Stay safe.
And you. Everybody, take care. And as always, come on, you Spurs. And Daniel Levy out.